Hello! It says I'm live, but I've got no way of really knowing. I've got one amazing guest in the studio with me today, the very lovely Michael Broussard. Yay! Hello! How are
Hello.
you? How's it
Hello.
going?
Oh,
Why?
it's going interesting because it's 5:59 a.m. here. So I got up at like 4:20 because I'm overly prepared for everything. So I
Yeah,
had time to shower and all. By the time I was done, I still had an hour left, but like give me an hour. Don't give me 5 minutes because that's when everything goes to hell.
I know, but yeah, it is very much an international show. I was trying to get somebody from who's moved to Australia to
Oh.
do the Free Fringe, but they would have to get up in the middle of the night to
Mm-hmm.
do like a daytime show. So I'm not sure how likely it is they're going to do that. They said it was a good idea, but I think then they didn't back it up by actually applying. So you are in the USA at the moment, aren't
I
you?
am in the USA. I'm in a little borough called Lansdowne, just outside of Philadelphia.
Ooh.
And when it comes to Philadelphia, I think the words just outside are important.
Yeah, so this is very much international. I'm in Wales, which isn't in Scotland at all, and I'm doing the Free Fringe, and so are you.
That
It's
is
Edinburgh
awesome.
Fringe from all over the world. I'm not sure that Wales is all over the world. Is all over the world for you, probably.
You know it is. It really is. I mean, the funny thing is, I know where Wales is. I know where Cardiff is. I know where Edinburgh is. I watched a lot of PBS growing up, and there was a lot of British television. So I have a general idea of where things are located.
Mm.
Unless you ask me about the United States, and then about 80% of the time, I have no idea where I am at any given moment.
Well, it's a big place.
It is a big place. It is a big place. I was doing the show earlier this week, and my wife was like, you talk about this traveling you do across the country at one point. You really need to tell people where you start from and where because when you say in America, oh, I was in Massachusetts and I went all the way to Phoenix, Arizona. Well, people get that. But when you say that to who knows what international audience, they're like, oh, are those states right next to each other? No, they're not. One's at this end and one's at this end. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's get the box. One's at this end and one's at this end.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
hands went rogue.
Yeah, Phoenix is desert and Massachusetts is wet and
It's
things.
insane. It is insane. Phoenix was an alien landscape to me, and I talk about some of that in the show. But it was I'd grown up in an area where we had sort of defined seasons and humidity, and the hottest the summers got was maybe 85. And I went to Phoenix, and even back then, temperatures would kick out at 100. And the sun was so bright. I thought everybody was trying to be cool because they were all wearing sunglasses. They were trying to be like, it's because you can't see a damn thing after 10 o'clock in the morning. So it was like, and then there are scorpions. You have to shake out your shoes just in case there are scorpions in the morning. And there are tarantulas, and there are rattlers, and the desert is not soft. I've been fooled by like Lawrence of Arabia. The desert is hard. And I know because somebody beat the holy crap out of me and grabbed me by my ears and banged my head against the desert floor. So I was like, oh, this is not what I expected.
No,
this is what I'm thinking while somebody's grabbing me by my ears and banging my head against the ground.
It's a hard desert. Well, deserts are very different. I mean, Antarctica is a desert, but it's not exactly.
Well, yeah, exactly. Different kind of desert, right? A different kind of desert.
So, your show, you're with the PBH Digital Free Fringe.
Yay! I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be doing this. Free Fringe is where it's at, man, because I know that this is certainly something that is part of the Free Fringe ethos there, and it's part of the Free Fringe ethos here, and some of the other like small festivals. The main Fringe here in the Philadelphia area is an organ to bleed you dry.
Yeah.
You can succeed and still end up in debt. And I know that happens over there as well. It happens all around the world. So I am so appreciative of being able to do this. Also, because there's no way I could have traveled over to Edinburgh right now. A, money right now, but eventually I will. B, I have gigantic COVID risk factors. I have a million different COVID risk factors. So I'm not doing anything in person right now. But here's the interesting thing. So I'm doing this show Versus, right, which is what I'm doing in the Free Fringe. And I started doing the Zoom stuff and the shows remote because of the pandemic.
Mm.
And I find it a format that is very unique to itself, that it's not the same as being in person, and it's not inferior. It's different because there's advantages, and the ability to have conversations with people over in Edinburgh, or when I'm doing other stuff like Nairobi, all these other places. It's wonderful because you can reach people and reach other cultures where people will say things and you'll be like, I never thought of that before. I never thought of that before. And so to me, that's fascinating. And the idea of being able to reach out to people around the world is fascinating. And also the idea to talk to all these people that I know from the UK that I only see at Doctor Who conventions and say, hey, you can see the stupid thing I'm doing on the PBH Fringe. And I say stupid thing is in a self-deprecating manner. Yes, you know that.
Always.
So, yeah, exactly. So the show, the whole idea of the show is, a large part of it is that connection. People throughout can ask me questions. They can make comments. I will respond. You know, the idea is to get a discussion going. It's also an amalgamation of all these unclassifiable things that I've written over the years. And the way I write is a little singular, let's say. My wife calls me a human Muppet.
That's a good thing to be. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful, you know.
A Muppet or a man. Yes.
I'm a Muppety man. I'm glad you know that. That is so cool. But yeah, you know, in the show, I talk about, you know, conformity and individuality and politics and personal trauma and mismatched socks and all kinds of things like that. And I have a way of writing that kind of drove me out of being in punk bands for years, because my writing changed in such a way and grew in such a way that it no longer, people in the bands were like, well, we're not gonna make a song out of this garbage. We're not gonna make a song about cows. I'm sorry, we're not doing that. I got a hint for you. If you're in bands, other people suck.
Yeah.
The control of the creativity to be able to say and do what I want to do, you know, and to talk about love and cows and UFOs and Sasquatch and global warming and all this stuff. And nobody's next to me going, well, that doesn't really fit the sound or the creative perspective that we're coming from. And I'm like, my creative perspective is whatever I want to say.
Yeah.
And this is what I want. And this is what's wonderful about the Fringe, right? You have people coming at it from all angles, you know. I wish I was there, because if I was there, I would see Renfield, #1. I mean, my God, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
I want to see Attila the Stockbroker. I can't. I was looking at some of PBH's past shows on YouTube, and God, I would love to be there for one of those, because the interaction he has with the crowd is so wonderful, and he's so freaking funny, and he takes a structure like, you know, how does he smell? That one joke.
Yeah.
And builds around it. And that's the kind of thing that I'm into, is like taking a thing and building around it, you know, and building something around it. And then also building together, because the response you get back makes you do something maybe you weren't expecting from yourself.
Exactly. Well, that's the amazing thing. There was a haiku show one year. I don't think there's the recording of that. Not online. It is there. And it was just, the whole thing was just haikus. And it's to get that whole thing and to make it work. I think there was one where he slightly cheated, but only just. But, you know, it's like the whole thing, an hour of haiku.
Marvelous. It's marvelous.
I mean, obviously you can't have an hour-long haiku. There was lots of them.
Yeah, well, you'd have to speak very, very slowly.
Yeah. Yes,
you know,
it might lose the.
But who is it who does? There's somebody online, and she's a famous folk music personality from back in the '70s who's still, you know, kicking now. And one of the things she puts on social media constantly are Godzilla haikus.
Oh wow!
They're all just haikus about Godzilla, and there is no limit, honestly. That concept is absolutely limitless, which is kind of like the way I think, you know, like, well, Godzilla haiku, sure. Somebody said something recently that instead of like God bless you or Gesundheit, we should say Godzilla.
Well, why not? Yeah, exactly. And it's Gojira, isn't it? It's not even.
It's Gojira. Yes, Gojira.
Yeah.
Gogeta, who changed sex when he came to America and became Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly.
We got Godzilla instead of Gogeta, and we got Raymond Burr from Perry Mason, who I have no problem with Raymond Burr, and I do get a great deal of amusement out of the version with him cut into everything, because apparently if there are no American white people on the screen, we can't watch a movie. I didn't know that. I had no idea that you couldn't watch a film unless there was somebody who was white.
Yeah.
Nobody told me that rules.
I mean, it's a silly rule, isn't it? But they did that with Power Rangers too. Like, very cleverly, they had all suits on, so you couldn't tell who they were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about Power Rangers, and this, I'm not talking specifically about my show, but this kind of all feeds into the attitude of the show. Years and years back, there was, it was kind of an underground thing that would only pop up at conventions. And somebody had gotten a hold of Power Rangers long before it ever came over here in its early days. And they recut it and redubbed it as Dynateam. And they dubbed it hilariously. There's one point where like, and the Pink Ranger, Yoshi, the human outboard motor and stuff like that. And they changed the plots. There's one of them which they changed into the Lizard of Oz. And it was just so brilliant. And I saw that for years, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And then the Power Rangers came over, and I'm like, but this is the stuff they redubbed funny. What's going on now? I don't understand. What's happening?
Yeah.
It was like surreal. Nothing against Power Rangers. Everybody has their thing, right?
Yeah.
I watch Columbo constantly. Everybody has their thing.
Yeah, Columbo's good. Oh, there's who was it? I can't remember who it was. There's Grania Maguire, I think. That's probably not a name now. Anyway, she was obsessed with. Oh, it wasn't even Columbo. I don't know. There was. I know that there's at least one comedian that was obsessed with Columbo, another one that was obsessed with that thing with Dick Van Dyke in it, Murder. I can't remember.
Diagnosis
Murder, and they all so many years they all become the same thing in my mind. It's not the same thing anymore.
Dick Van Dyke is awesome. Dick Van Dyke is a progressive liberal. Dick Van Dyke posts all these incredibly progressive things on social media. I'm so glad to find that out, because he was somebody that I really enjoyed growing up as a kid in repeats from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah.
I was a lonely little child. I watched lots of television. Lots and lots of television. But I got to see Metropolis when I was like 11.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Nosferatu when I was like 11. Beautiful film, but scared all the shit out of me.
I know. It formed your personality when you see things like that.
It does. Like between Monty Python, Nosferatu, and Doctor in the House, which now I would never watch because I've seen it as an adult and, you know, the TV series. And I'm like, my God, there's so much sexist crap in here. Good God.
I know, 70s stuff that you're like, wow. I remember things that I wouldn't, when I was a kid, would love, and you see them and you go, that's horrific. Actually, Ghostbusters, it's horrific.
God, there's so much sexism in Ghostbusters. There's so much deep sexism in Ghostbusters.
Yes, I watched with my mum, and we were like, no. Yeah.
Bill Murray's supposed to be cute and charming. He's a creep. I'm not saying Bill himself, but I'm saying the character's a creep.
He's a lovely person. But that character, no.
Bill doesn't come around no more. I don't know what he's up to these days. I don't see him lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's and that's what's fascinating to me. All this stuff. I love the way culture changes. In the show, I talk about Paris, right? And Paris, well, if you're in England, you can get on a train and go to Paris in like 90 minutes, you know? But from over here, it's this whole other culture that is a different way of thinking and a different way of being and all that stuff. And we experienced it again in this weird way because, you know, people will go over and they'll hit the tourist sites, bam, 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 right? We never do that when we go to a city. We walk in between. And a lot of our favorite stuff is the weird shit. You know, it's like stumbling across a Salvador Dali museum that we didn't know was there. Yeah. I remember we found it. It was like, there was just this, there was this fence and it was totally covering an entryway. And there was this little sign that said Salvador. And we're like, what is that? And that to me is what it was all about, was all that weird stuff, you know, the interesting stuff that you're not going to find, you know, and arguing with the people at the Picasso Museum that the picture they had up was actually Jonathan Richman. They wouldn't believe us. I'm like, it's Jonathan Richman. You know Jonathan Richman?
I did, because I looked him up after seeing your show.
Oh, did you really? See, this is where a lot of my, okay, I can't say that I'm like anybody that I'm obsessed with, but I'm kind of like Jonathan, except nobody's like Jonathan. But from Jonathan, I got the idea that don't worry about what other people think about what you do. If you're weird and you're quirky and you're strange and you're wacky and sometimes you're romantic and sometimes you're dark and sometimes just do it, for God's sake. And do you know the tale of Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers? He starts out with the Modern Lovers, this band in the 70s, and their first album is produced by somebody from the Velvet Underground, and it is never released till after the band breaks up in the mid-70s. Wow. And by the time it's released, Jonathan has moved on to something else. So now he's being called the godfather of punk. And he's like, but I'm doing something else. That's cool and everything, but I'm doing something else. And what I love about Jonathan is he just didn't even consider just being what people expected of him. He is still that way now in his 70s. He's just like, I'm going to do what I do. You go to a Jonathan show, you won't necessarily recognize any of the songs. Even if you bought all the records, he's written new stuff since then, and he's not playing the old stuff. And like 2 years ago, he's not playing the old stuff. So you go with an expectation of be yourself, for God's sake.
Exactly. That's interesting. That I can't remember what it was. There was the whole thing about things being really re-released years later. There was some in the last 2 years during lockdown. There was a female artist. I can't remember right. I think it was Janice something that had recorded with some big rock group, and then they got famous and they didn't release her record. And now all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Wow, it's a voice that we've lost through time." It's like so much lost history.
Oh, I know who you mean now. I can't remember her name either, but I saw that recently. Was she a folk artist?
Yeah, she's
singer-songwriter. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Is it Janice Dixon?
Something like that.
Something like that. Maybe
the weird thing is they kept maybe not that. The articles I've read have referred to her as, you know, an early iteration of the singer-songwriter before Dylan, and I'm like, there were people with guitars singing songs. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they started the singer-songwriter genre. It means that they were a person with guitar writing and singing songs. And, you know, she was a folk artist. And Dylan, she was a vanguard. She started before him. And her songs are so unusual. Her perspective is so fascinating. And I just love that. I absolutely love that. But like this need they have to have these headlines that are like, she started the singer-songwriter, blah, 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 in the 1950s. And I'm like, no, she was herself in the 1950s. Stop latching onto people with these stupid terms. And if you one more time call Bob Dylan a singer-songwriter, you're going to hear from me, or her for that matter. Because singer-songwriters gotten this negative connotation, and all it means is somebody who sings and writes songs and sings songs, right? But there's become a genre, and a lot of people in the genre, forgive me, I do have opinions, are boring. They're boring, and they sound like each other.
That's true, yeah. But, you know, everyone sounds like themselves. But everyone sounds like somebody else.
Well, that's true.
Looking at it, because nothing is new and everything is new.
Exactly. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I mean, all the stuff that we listen to, Christy and I listen to, is like Ella Fitzgerald and the Dead Kennedys, and The Clash, and Johnny Cash, and Jonathan Richman, and just everything. Like, we've gotten to the point in our lives where good music is good music. And that's all that matters. We listened to a guy named Georgie Fame, who you might have heard of.
I do, yeah.
We may be the only Georgie Fame fans in the United States of America anymore. I have no idea, but it's entirely possible. We have traveled over there to see him. And while we love him and his music, he's a crotchety old man now. He's kind of a miserable sod. He's just like bitching about everything. I heard him say on stage, like, so everything in life is shit except when I'm up here. I was like, oh, okay, Georgie, sure, you got it. We like his music. We don't have to like him as a person.
No, I mean, Georgie Fame, I'm sort of vaguely aware of, mainly because I think when I was a kid, we went to Austria on a school trip, and there was this person playing music in the middle of the square, just from, like in The Sound of Music, the big, there's a thing on the hill, like, I think where the nuns lived. Anyway, there's something there, a castle or something, and there was somebody playing, and somebody recognized him, and it was Georgie Fame, and he was just playing like he was a busker or something, and we were like,
Wow.
what's going on? So that was mainly why.
Yeah, we discovered it by accident, and the way we discover everything. One year I found and sent this musical greeting card to my wife, and it was his one big hit, Yeah Yeah, and we didn't know who the hell Georgie Fame was, and we went looking like, what's the song? It's weird, and we dug up all this stuff. And Georgie, like Bobby Darin, we'll name drop him as well, is a conduit. Because Georgie has done all different kinds of music. So you listen to Georgie and you hear these songs he's done, and then you go look up the people who did them originally, and you find yourself in all these different areas of artistic expression, which is what I love. Like, don't stick to one thing. That again, I'm going to keep plugging the show. That again is part of what I do, is like, don't stick to one thing. And it's why I get obsessed by people like that. I mean, you look at even people that you don't realize, like, Ray Charles had a song called an album called The Modern Sounds of Country and Western, where he went and did country Western tunes, but in Ray Charles style. Yeah. And that's a conduit. Oh, I've never heard these songs before. Oh, where are they coming from? This is an awesome album. Who are these original people who sang them? And I hope for some people I'm a conduit to something, but I don't know what it could possibly be based on the weird shit that I talk about. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Go listen to Hank Williams. Go listen to Police Truck by the Dead Kennedys.
Yeah.
You know?
Go listen to stuff.
I was cleaning. I was cleaning yesterday because I have a normal life. I was cleaning the house, and I'm listening to a combination of Cat Stevens and The Clash. And to me, there's no difference. I'm like, well, it's all intense, man. I mean, have you ever like sat down and like really listened to Cat Stevens lyrics? If you change the music, they could be punk songs. I Might Die Tonight could be a punk song, because it's just like, I got to do this shit now because I might die tonight. And you're like, that's dark. Oh my God, Jello Biafra could have sung about that.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is the genres, it's not really a thing. I mean, I don't really see why, if you're like deadly serious about something, then you should be able to laugh. It's not like you don't in life, you have all of the stuff. So it sometimes frustrates me when people don't do all of the stuff at the same time, which, it's up to them really.
But I like all the stuff at the same time. I can't help it. I get bored just doing one thing. I want to keep. There was a long time after I did the first show I did, Ask a Sex Abuse Survivor, which was about the fact that I'm a survivor of sexual abuse as a child. I did that back in 2014, and I'm still doing it. And it's been like rewritten and rearranged based on like healing stuff and things that I've learned from people who've asked me questions at shows. And what I found is that was the first case where I'd been writing for a long time and doing things for a long time. And I was trying to figure out what people would want. And that was my huge mistake. And when I got into therapy and I started talking to my therapist about wanting to do this show, I was like, you know what? People may not want to hear this, but that doesn't matter because I want to do this. So I did it. And I found out that when I went ahead and did what I wanted to do and wherever my brain was coming from at that point in time, suddenly I was successful. Suddenly people were connecting. And so ever since then, every show I've done this is what I want to do. This is just what I want to do. And I'm not going to think about an audience. I worked with a guy for a while. It was a good friend of mine. But we differed on the concept of audiences. He said that whenever he made music, he was measuring it by this mythical 14-year-old boy who might be into what I'm playing, Of course, the 14-year-old boys were the ones they referenced as friends of Spinal Tap and Spinal Tap, which I love Spinal Tap. But I was like, no, there is no mythical audience. You can do what you want to do, but there's no mythical audience, man. The audience is do what you want to do and say what you want to say. And if you want to talk about socks, or you want to talk about global warming, or you want to talk about, you know, I talk about how much I love my wife. You find it too sappy? Tough shit, you know?
Yeah.
But if I found more and more as I do what I want to do, people connect. And sometimes it doesn't even matter if people connect. This is what I've run into a lot too, is people I know who are struggling as artists are like, I don't know what to do to get people to pay attention to me. And they're looking for what I was looking for years, which is validation. Somebody gives you a review or says you're awesome, or your show is awesome, or whatever like that. And through a series of rather traumatic experiences over the last few years, I got to the point where I'm like, no, nobody has to validate what I do. If they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. If they like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. I'm not saying it's not great when somebody says they like something. It's wonderful. But in the end, I feel you're an artist if you make art. Not if somebody likes your art, not if somebody pays you for your art, not if somebody, you're just an artist if you make art. And you know what? Do the thing that's going on in here and going on in here, because otherwise you're just one of a series of generic cutouts, and people could go to any one of those to get what you're doing. Yeah. Well, be yourself, because then they can only go to you.
That's a very good point. Yeah. But don't second guess what it is that you are. As you don't construct yourself in order to please people as well, because that can also be a little bit of a trap. It's like, I'm going to be unique and different, and then you're like, you're not.
Yeah, not by definition. Like, right. But yeah, it's not like I'm trying to be weird, right? It's just sometimes it's weird, sometimes it's not, right? Exactly. I'm unique. I'm special. There's no one like me in the world. I mean, there may be other people like this. Probably are other people like me in the world, because I'm a straight cisgender white guy. There are billions of us. And I apologize for all straight cisgender white guys. We suck.
But sorry, I was just fiddling with this and something.
Oh, okay. I thought a bat flew by or something.
Yeah, a thing flew by. Just shocked myself from nothing. No, I don't know though. Is anybody really what they think they are though?
Well, exactly.
Define yourself, and it doesn't mean that is what you are. Yeah. Well,
I also would confine me to like, what am I going to do next? Well, I have to do something next, being who I am, right? But no, it's what runs through my head when I'm walking around the house, cleaning up and vacuuming. That's that's the kind of stuff. And that's why I write stuff. I just walk around the house talking to myself. But don't we all, right?
Oh, sometimes, yeah. Especially if you're trying to develop things and thoughts and stuff.
Yeah, and weird things will come to my mind. One of the pieces in this show called Till the Cows Come Home, which is just this weird little meditation on love, that came to me in one solid piece from one end to the other. Like over the course of like 20 minutes, the entire thing came tumbling out. And it's like, oh, quick, write it down. And then sometimes I got 4 lines and it sits on my phone for 4 years. And then suddenly, bam, oh my God, this is what this is. If you looked at my phone notes, it's hilarious, because I've got all these like, oh, maybe this is the title of a show, or maybe this is this, or maybe this is that. I typed in the phrase artificial irrelevance. I don't know what I'm doing with that. Artificial intelligence. There's nothing intelligent about artificial intelligence.
This is just knowing when things are going to come in handy. It's like I'm a bit of a hoarder with ideas and stuff, and then I just leave them for years and forget about them. I've got a big box of stuff that I need to look back on just in case there's something interesting in it.
And one day you're like, oh my God, what's in this box? What's in this box? Look at this. I used to. I don't have a desk anymore with desk drawers, but years ago I did, because I'm old, and I had a bottom drawer which. I learned this from, of all people, I learned this from Harlan Ellison. Do you know the author Harlan Ellison? He talked about the fact that you should have an idea drawer. Every little scrap of paper gets thrown into that drawer. And whenever you have a problem, you dig through the drawer. And I had a drawer full of stuff. And I would pull things out and like, what the hell was that? Oh, wait a minute. That fits this other thing that I just thought of. And now it's turned into a thing, you know? Yeah. Now my bottom drawer is my notes app on my phone. And I'm surprised sometimes when I look on there and I'm like, who wrote this? Yeah. Where did this come from? That's kind of cool. But yeah, it's weird how things sometimes they'll just sit there for years, but sometimes they'll just like spill out all at once, you know? and I don't see the point in trying to figure out, like I said, what other people are going to react to or respond to, because I'm here to entertain myself. You know,
that's what it's all about in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm having fun. I'm having fun. You know, I'm having fun talking about Leonard Nimoy and In Search of and all that stuff, and that's fascinating because I got to tell you, back then in the 70s, when, for example, Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, I was an absolute believer. I believed in flying saucers and aliens and spirit photography and all that garbage, right? I say garbage. I'm talking to myself. I'm not criticizing anyone else who believes. But, you know, I was obsessed with that show, and I was obsessed with these ideas.
Yeah.
And still as an adult, well, I'm not an absolute believer. I would like to believe that something magical is out there, that, you know, Bigfoot isn't just some guy in a furry suit who walked around and stood way away so you could take pictures of him. You know, it would be nice. It would be magical. I'm not a big fan of Jurassic Park because I think I've only ever seen the first film, and I grew tired of it fairly soon in myself because it was kind of a bunch of cheap shot gags after a while. And the fat guy was evil, which is just a trope with Spielberg that I don't appreciate. I just think it's shorthand that's really kind of ridiculous. And, you know, some guy gets eaten while he's sitting in a toilet. Okay, short gag. It was a bunch of short gags. But the one thing I loved about it, and this goes back to like wanting something like magic in the world. Well, there was these rumors way back when, before we'd explored all of the Amazon, that somewhere there were dinosaurs living in the Amazon. They were still alive and they were still there. Now we've seen everything and they're not there. But there's a moment in Jurassic Park early on where they show the naturalist, played by Sam Neill. They show him that they've grown a dinosaur and he sees it in person for the first time. And he's devoted his entire life to this thing he thought he would never see alive. And he just falls to his knees, and he looks like he's on the verge of tears. That, to me, is how I felt about I want to see dinosaurs, man. It just, the magic would be so beautiful, or aliens would be so beautiful, the magic of that. I used to like dream when I was a child that aliens would come down and take me away, and, you know, hopefully it wouldn't turn out that How to Serve Men was a cookbook.
Yes, exactly. Oh god, yeah. Is that the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone? I forget. Yeah,
no, that's Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. Yeah.
I have a lot of stuff in my head, man. A lot of Twilight Zone and Outer Limits.
Yeah, all of them. They just come. It's like, which episode is that? It's like Burgess Meredith with his glasses. That's Twilight Zone, isn't it? Oh, that's somebody here. All right, so I think that we might have visitors going.
Okay.
Very loud. So I'm going to wrap it up, but can you let us know where your show is, what you can do, where you can catch it, what time it is?
Okay, well, it is I'm going to put the link in the chat. Is that cool?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. That's a good plan.
Yeah, I'm going to put 2 links in the chat. Hold on.
Yeah.
This one.
So it's Saturdays at 4 p.m.
Saturdays at 4 p.m. and it's Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Excellent. Yeah.
And Wednesdays and Thursdays are off because A, I need therapy, and B, I need to clean the house.
Absolutely.
So you got to give yourself your mental health space.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So you're able to clean the house. And the links to the page.
I'm just going to put you on, hang on, full, because what's happened here is this is terribly embarrassing here. You just talk. I need to answer the door.
Okay, you answer the door. Hello, folks. This is Michael Broussard, and I have a show called Versus for a What the Fuck World, and you should come to it. And if you go to the PBH website, okay, and you type in Versus for a What the Fuck World in your search, you're going to get all my times, and you're going to get the link to go see my shows, and they're free, and they're on Zoom, and it's going to be awesome because I talk about all kinds of weird shit, and I want to hear what you have to say and all that good stuff. So that was I did a sell there. That was pretty good. Not bad.
It's a good sell. Yeah.
Come to my fucking show.
It's a good show. And yeah, we've got visitors that have come from away. And and you know, I've got the bell right next to me. So sorry about that. But
that's all
great
right.
show. Thank you very much. Come and see you.
Thank you.
you every day, and come see me some days as well. And everything's going to be absolutely fantastic. So see you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.